Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. and today I'm reviewing Decrypto from Yellow Games. Decrypto is a 3 to 8 player party game, although I would argue it's a 4 to 8 player party game despite the fact that there's a 3 player mode. But either way, it is a party game in which players are trying to help their own team figure out their clues while trying to avoid detection by the other team, while trying to avoid their clues being decrypted, hence the name Decrypto. The general idea of the game is your team wins either if, well, let's rephrase that, your team wins if you intercept the other side's clue twice, or your team loses if your own team gets your own clue wrong twice. That is a little confusing, so let me try to walk you through it. The general idea of the game is you're going to have your own little board full of 4 clues. You can see this over here. I'm sure you can't see a single one of those words, but the nice part is if I go ahead and switch it right there, you can probably see your own words right now. It's not actually going to matter for the rest of this review, but now you can get a sense of what your board looks like over here. Those are going to be your cards. You have all of these cards over here that are basically these over here, and you're just basically looking at those cards, and these you can't see a thing, but when you put it back into this board over here, that's when you can go ahead and see exactly what word is on those cards. That's the general idea. You have your 4 words. The problem is you need to get your team to guess those 4 words. Let's go ahead and take a look at your 4 words, for example. I'll do mine in a second. Let's first show you your words. Right now we have over here, we have this card over here, which is going to be a 3-2-1. Actually, I did that wrong. Let's go ahead and redraw that because I don't want you to know. I'm going to draw a new card over here. I'm not going to show it to you, but you are going to see this board over here. And this board has Message, Drum, Monk, and Fraud. In case you can't see it, Message, Drum, Monk, and Fraud. And those are the numbers over there. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Those correlate to the specific words. So I am going to look at my card, which gives me a 3, similar to the way this one over here gave you 3, 2, 1, that means this card wanted me to get you to guess 3, 2, 1 in that order. That's the output I wanted. The input I would give you is some clues. The output I wanted is 3, 2, 1. So with that said, give me a second while I try to think of a clue over here. So we have over here, I'm looking at your board over here. I want that, then that, then that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and say music, religious, communication. Okay, those are my words. Music, religious, communication. Now with that knowledge, and only that knowledge, please tell me the order that you think I want you to guess. I want 3 numbers from you in a specific order, and the order I'm giving you is music, religious, communication. Music, religious, communication. Right, but now if you went ahead and you chose 2, 3, 1, you are correct. It is indeed 2, 3, 1. Music for drum, religious for monk, and communication for message. That's the good news. The problem is, your other team right now, they know a few things. They know that I said music, religious, and communication, and they know that the output was correctly 2, 3, 1, which is why this next time round, I'm going to draw another card over here, and let's do that one more time. Okay, and this is with you knowing things. I'm going to give you the sense of the other team in a second, okay? So, to that end, let's go ahead and look at this. I now have a new sequence over here, and the sequences are on these cards over here, and looking at the board once again, I'm going to go ahead and say, beat, text, I'm going to say beat, text, bald. Beat, text, bald. Beat, text, bald. Beat, text, bald. And what is the answer over there? Now, right about now, the problem is before you answer, okay, because you might have the answer locked in for you, but before you do, you have to understand that the other team has been writing things down on this pad of paper as they go. And they know that I previously did music, religious, communication, and now they have beat, text, and bald. And they get to intercept first. They get to guess what they think my clues are related to before you have a chance to answer. Now the question is, does music, religious, and communication, do any of those words have enough correlation with beat, text, and bald for them to understand? Maybe they don't know, but beat and music, that kind of goes hand in hand, so maybe they might start to have a bit of a pattern of what's going on. Now let's pretend they don't answer. Let's pretend they get it wrong, they guess whatever number they guess, and you go ahead and correctly guess 2, 1, 3 over here, wrong camera, 2, 1, 3. Well, at this point, they now know, because they'll be writing on their paper, they will now have the knowledge to be able to communicate that text and communication both correlated to 1, beat and music both correlated to 2, and religious and bald both communicated to 3. They don't know what your words are, but they know the things that are driving towards your words. And that means, as the game goes on, it's sheer luck that the 4 wasn't in either of those ones, but as the game goes on, a pattern will start developing. And as the game goes on, their ability to intercept gets stronger and stronger because they have more of the things surrounding your clues. That's how you play the other team and your team. To that end, let's go ahead and do this similarly. At this point, feel free to play at home or skip ahead a few minutes, but I'm going to go ahead and start doing that so you can get a sense of this, but I'm going to go ahead and give you the clues and the answer without the actual knowing of what's behind my board, because I have my own board over here, and without knowing what's behind it, I'm going to go through 2 or 3 rounds of giving you clues, and you can write down as you go what you think the answers are, and let's see if you can intercept this. So, starting off the bat, I'm going to go, and obviously I have the benefit of assuming that my team got my answers right, but we're going to assume that, because that's part of it. Because remember how I said that you lose if your own team guesses wrong? Because the more you go on in the game, the more vague your own clues have to be to remain undetected by your opponents. But also, that means that your team might get things wrong, which means if you get your own team's clues wrong twice, you lose. That's why you want to be at least cognizant enough that whatever clue you give, your team can get. But you also lose if you get intercepted twice. So those are the 2 ways you win or lose. You win if you intercept them, and you lose if you get your own clues wrong. So, with that said, my own clues over here, I'm going to go with 8, huge, tip. 8, huge, tip. Okay? 8, huge, tip. And yes, the answers are 1, 3, 4. Now, one of my clues is vague enough there's a chance my team wouldn't have gotten it, but we'll figure it out. So, again, you can write it down. 8, huge, tip is 1, 3, 4. 8, huge, tip, 1, 3, 4. Feel free to write those down. Let's do another one of these. Okay? And I'll after the third one, we'll see if you can get it. Okay? Dairy, Harry, happy. Dairy, Harry, happy. Dairy, Harry, happy. And that is 4, 1, 2. Okay? Dairy, Harry, happy, 4, 1, 2. Making progress so far? Because you get to lock your clues in after the third guess and see if you can intercept. Dairy, Harry, happy, 4, 1, 2. And then for the next one, we're going to have soft, ancient, dance. Soft, ancient, dance. Okay? 4, 3, 2. And now you could pause and guess, or I'll do one more. I'll stop one more. So you can pause and guess now, lock in your guesses after the third one, see if you intercept it. And then now one more. We're going to go with scary, Lincoln, scary, Lincoln, fire. Scary, Lincoln, fire. Scary, Lincoln, fire. Chance to intercept, and now we're going to go 1, 3, 2. Scary, Lincoln, fire. Scary, Lincoln, fire. Okay? Now they have all that information. This time, I'm not going to give you the answers. The question is just I'm going to say, I'm going to give 4 clues now, and the question is, can you correlate them? So now with all that information, we now have toast, Sphinx, Frodo. Toast, Sphinx, Frodo. Okay? And again, all these clues are given with the knowledge that my team can get these either way. The question is, can you figure out what Toast, Sphinx, Frodo is? Because if you can, and if you got 4, 3, 1, then you managed to figure out the pattern. That's the general idea over here. For the record, my clues over here were Spider, Festival, Monument, and I don't know if you can see those there. Spider, Festival, Monument, and Butter were the clues. And so I was correlating different things. I was trying to be creative because you don't want to do many patterns. For example, for Monument, I said Lincoln, because Lincoln is like, you know, and like the Lincoln, is there a Lincoln Monument? Is it just the faces? I don't know. I figured it was good enough. But we had, I was going to say Washington, because it's a Washington Monument. But if I say Lincoln and Washington, you might connect those even if you don't know that word is Monument. For Spider, I did 8 for the first time. Harry, I did Scary, and then I did Frodo. Or I think I did another one too. Was there another one? It was 8, Scary. I wasn't doing all of them. That's what it was. For Festival, I did Dance. I did Fire, like the Fire Festival. You see what I'm doing there? Fire Festival. I can't remember else. I may have done Happy or something like that for one of them. For Monument, I did Ancient. I did Huge. Like, monuments are huge, but Spider Festivals, Butter aren't as much. For Butter, I did Tip. This is the one that was may have been a little out there, because you tip cows, and cows give butter. It may have been a bit out there. My team might have got that. They might not. But I did Tip. I think I did Dairy at one point. I did Toast. So you can see all these things start correlating around these categories, and hopefully you're able to intercept, or hopefully not. Depends which team you're on, I guess. That's basically how you play Decrypto, which means it's time for the review, starting off with ease of play. The ease of play is it's interesting in this game. The game is not inherently complicated, but it is a game that's harder to teach than it would seem. The concepts all make sense, and once you know how to play, it's very easy to figure it out. But until you do, I do find this is a game that's not immediately intuitive. The concept that you're trying to tie things together, but you're trying to be obvious but not obvious. So you give me information that's out in the open based on a commonality, and the whole aspect of writing things down and trying to get that patterns in place, it is not the easiest game to teach. But once the players know it, oh wow, is it a good game. Oh wow, let's move into the review part. Let's start into the review part of this over here. The review, what do I like, not like, I can see others not liking. This is a great game. This is an absolutely great game. The cleverness of how the system works over here. The fact that it's a party game combined with a strategy game, which is a concept that's been done. It's been done in Codenames, it's been done in So Clover, it's been done in Just One. The combination of that mental gymnastics you have to try to work your way through, but also combined with the fact that it's just a fun time at the same time as you have a degree of trying to combine things. One of my favorite things to do in this game is to try to come up with patterns. So I can't remember exactly, but I remember one time I did French, France, Napoleon. Those are my answers. French, France, Napoleon. Because if you can kind of come up with these categories, your own team might have enough information to distinguish what they are. Or I might do numbers. I might do like 8, 4, 1. People are like, 8, 4, 1, how are those correlating? Well, 8 legs for chair, or whatever. Chair is 4 legs, whatever it is, you know. 1 might just be, you know, I don't know. I have no clue. You figure these things out, that you figure out these ways to combine different things in these little subcategories, so people have to try to penetrate past the surface layer because they have to connect things. And there's so much going on. The game escalates as you play. The more you play with people who know what's going on, the more you level up your own knowledge of how to give clues that aren't going to be immediately obvious the third round. That first time you get money and you're like, I'm going to be clever, I'm going to say dough. That sounds great. The problem is once you have dough and once somebody else does cash, suddenly the other team has dough and cash and they're like, oh, I mean, money, like obviously that's the correlating thing. So it's a weird mini game of trying to figure out how to not come up with inherently obvious subcategories, Washington and, you know, Lincoln being an obvious category, versus how to figure out a way that you don't get a separate category, but that obviously has a connecting point, because that could actually be almost worse for you in a way. Versus it requires a degree of cleverness to try to figure out, well, how can I use Washington for one clue, but then use Lincoln for another in a way that will make sense? When you can kind of figure out ways that certain words look like they link together in ways that will throw off your opponents, but they actually refer to different cards, that's where the brilliance of the game starts to level up with you as you go. The near infinite variability, because this is one of those party games that it's about the combinations. First of all, the sheer stack of cards. You use, you know, 4 of these per side. These are double-sided, back and forth. There's so much variability to the game, and the combination of the cards is also going to shift the variability. So it's always a different puzzle of how you try to figure out how to connect these things together in just it's brilliant. It's just a brilliant game as far as how it works together, and it also has that additional aspect. It rotates being the guesser and the giver. In this game, you're not giving a single guesser and a single giver. Your team takes turns thinking of their clues, which keeps downtime low because you can already start thinking of your clues as the other team's taking their turn, but it also means that you're rotating through being a guesser and a giver within the same game as you go through it, and you have to be giving good enough clues that your team guesses them, but not so obvious clues that the other team guesses them, which is a fun little line to thread as you go through it. As far as things I don't like in the game, I will say sometimes the game can come down to who guesses better on the unknown. Meaning, for example, if I can really figure out that, you know, 2 of your clues are obviously 2 and then 1, but I'm not sure what the next one is, well then a 50-50 guess of either it's 4 or 3 for the last clue can actually be the determining factor of winning or losing, and that happens more than you would think. And so I never love it when a game of strategy can sometimes devolve to a 50-50 chance. Fortunately, I'm in this for the game and not for the winning or losing, but that is a factor that's a little present. Sometimes it's like, okay, great, you won or you lost based on you being lucky on the thing you didn't know and the thing that you got focused on guessing on. You can never guess across the board, but once you have 2 things locked in, the third thing is inherently a 50-50 guess, and that is a slightly frustrating little paradigm to go, not really paradigm, situation to go through. I'll say that, like I said already, at the ease of play, this is a game that's complicated to get people up and running. I usually don't love teaching this to new players as much. It's not the worst, but like if I'm playing with a new group of people that I'm not likely to be playing with again, I'd rather teach them Codenames, So Clover, Just One, where you can get them up and running in 2 seconds. Versus, if I'm going through this one, I used to want to teach this to people who I think I'll be playing games with again, because there's a little bit more of an initial run to get there, but it's worth it in the end. But that is more, like, the fact that a party game has that additional, like, okay, we kind of have to play a round or 2 for you to really understand where things are, that's a little leveled up for a party game. As far as I can see others not liking, it is very team dependent. I will say this contrasted with similar games, I would say that there's more arguing in Decrypto, more like slight frustration with your teammates than I find in similar games. The idea that you're like, oh, you did Washington and Lincoln, like that, I of course I'm going to think that, or you did tip, like the way things connect and the way you're going to connect them, I find these games are vulnerable to your teammates being frustrated. For whatever reason, I find Decrypto is slightly more vulnerable to it. And it's very team dependent in the fact that the way your teammates are picking up what you're doing is absolutely a huge factor. Again, present in all games. For whatever reason, I think that it's a little bit more present in Decrypto. It also could be a little alpha player dependent. As the clue guesser, not as much because you're rotating that aspect, but when you're trying to intercept the other team, this is a game where there's usually one person at the table who's being a little bit more dominant into how strong they are about their opinion. That's definitely 3. I'm telling you, it's got to be 3. Look at how these connect. You'll usually see a person who's a little bit more alpha playering at the table, and if you are that person, try to be mindful of that and step back a bit from it, but it is a bit more subject to that as you go. And then lastly, I'll say that the need to feel so clever that you can't even give a clue to your team, to your own team that's good, that might be frustrating. If many of these games rely on giving the best clue possible, Decrypto in a weird way doesn't. It relies on giving an obfuscated clue, which sometimes means that your teammate has to connect, butter, and tip, which isn't always the most fun experience, and that results in that degree of frustration that I was talking about. So some small nitpicks about it, not things that really bother me, but things that might make it a game that's not for you. As far as final thoughts on Decrypto, I love this game. This is one of my favorite party games, and I mentioned it several times throughout this video, but there's Codename, So Clover, Just One, and Decrypto. I find those 4 fall into a quadrant of that interdynamics, field is a term that I'm not coming up with, but the intersection between party game and strategy game, where it forces you to be clever and think outside the box while ultimately giving you a party game experience. I find this falls into that, and this one probably more so than the others falls the most towards that slight strategy dynamic, where yes, it is a party game too, and yes, it is about the fun and the laughter, but it's so much about trying to be interesting and clever and think through your clues and how to get involved in their heads and intercept them and to be one step ahead of it. Playing Decrypto works well when you're playing with a bunch of casual people who are learning it for the first time and are just here to have fun, and it works as well when you're playing with 4 die-hard players who are just sitting there trying to out-escalate the opponent. Like one time I had a game that would not end. It just kept on going as everyone is so clever in the clues no one can figure it out. This game works on so many levels. It's brilliantly designed. It's so satisfying both as the intercepting team, as the guesser, as the giver. All of the roles you play in this game I find satisfying. It is an excellent, excellent party game. Well deserving of, I believe currently it's the number 2 game on Board Game Geek in terms of the party game category, and well deserving of that spot. Decrypto, for me, it's a 4.5 out of 5. Absolutely amazing game. As far as other game recommendations, I've mentioned them several times throughout this video, but Codenames, Just One, and So Clover are going to be 3 other games that I find all fit into that same genre. If you like one of them, you'll likely find elements that you like about all of them. Some of them might work more for you than others, but they all hit that same satisfaction. In any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you found this video helpful, and as always, I hope you have a good one.